Hello and welcome back to the Powered by a Ground podcast. I am Kevin Winkle, and with me today we have the founder of Powered by Ground, David Kornienko. How's it going, David?
Hey Kevin, it's been good. It's been a while, but it's great. It's great to be back
Yeah,
talking
I'm
about
glad
the
we could get
market, talking about real estate, what we love to do most.
definitely glad we could get back to it. It's been a little bit since we sat down. It's been busy. I got to sit down recently with Jasmine Torres from Simplicity by Hayden Homes and hear about their
hmm
business model. That was pretty cool to hear. Like, it's a completely different business model than what we're running across in new construction right now. And I would love to give the people a little more insight of what you're experiencing. So for those of you just tuning in or just joining us, every episode we're trying to bring more information to those professionals in the industry, our real estate agents as well as our mortgage professionals and the builders, and really trying to understand what's going on in new construction in our area, especially, which is Southwest Washington, Northwest Oregon area, across the PNW, and then also little insights for other places in the country.
hmm
But it seems like the rest of the country's market is way different than what we have here in Cascadia. It's almost a different country, almost. So we hear all these news stories, but I don't really see them lining up with what's happening in our local market. So, David, you just had this huge experience with the Lakeview neighborhood, that neighborhood getting fully developed, and it's
Yes.
almost completely sold. There's like just a couple
hmm
of homes left in there. And so you're really like in the trenches of it. So, how, what, what are you seeing happening now that's a little different than maybe before?
It's amazing. I think 2025 is a special year in real estate, in meaning a lot of things are going on, a lot of news. Every day there's something, some expectation of the market to do some, I guess, miracle. But in essence, I think we're kind of almost in a balanced market, meaning between sellers and buyers. And some outskirts markets are definitely maybe struggling a little bit more, where it's more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. But I mean, most people are just thinking like, real estate's so easy. But in essence, Kevin, I mean, it moves from a seller's market to a buyer's market, from a buyer's market to the seller's market. That is basically the market flow of real estate, meaning when it turns into a buyer's market, there's just more buyers than sellers in the market, and this is one of the reasons we want to talk today. That sellers have to be a lot more competitive, and the brokers that are servicing sellers or builders have to put in a lot more strategy, on how to appeal to the buyer pool that's available right now. It's easy when there's more buyers than sellers, right? Things sell a lot faster. But when it's the inversion where, there's more sellers than buyers, then yeah, sellers have to have more strategy to understand the buyer pool, to understand what is needed to attract those buyers, and, you know, go from that perspective. So yeah, a lot of things has changed in 2025, and we always talk about market shifts. We always talk about follow the market wherever the market's going. It's interesting to find that, the transaction volume is kind of the same as 2024, at least for Southwest Washington. So I feel like, I don't know if we're going to hit any more bottom for the transaction volume, but transactions are still going to happen between buyers and sellers. But we have to be a lot more strategic about what we're doing and how we're approaching the market, how we're approaching the buyers, and what product we are truly delivering to the market. So feel like, this is a conversation that we hold just in our office here with a lot of other brokers. It's a conversation that we're holding with, our builders, developers, everyone, about the unfolding things of the market.
There are so many changes, and it's interesting to see it in a almost balanced state here where we're at. We're just barely leaning towards sellers, but just barely. And so we end up with this with homes that still sell in 72 hours, and then we end up with homes that are actually in good condition that just didn't win and get off to a good start, and so they can sit for 4, 5, 6 months sometimes. How is this affecting builders right now as we move more towards a buyer's market? Are they seeing changes in the behaviors of the buyers? Are they seeing a slowdown in homes that are picked up, or is it that much more important to have spec homes built
Mhm.
and fully staged out? Are people seeing the vision less? They want something completed now. What's the trend out there? What's the climate like?
I definitely feel like the builders have more inventory than they want. So they're sitting on more homes that they would probably want to sit on just because we're the market. So I feel like they have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what's the best product to sell, what's the best products that they can sell in today's market, and slowly cater their whole operation towards that direction. It's just like you working with buyers or sellers, right? Like we
Mm,
understand, more higher end product, takes slower to sell, and more lower end product takes faster to sell. And I feel like
right.
this is where they have to start balancing their portfolios, how much of what product they truly want to take to the market, and what is that going to mean for them as a builder, and what is their exposure. And when everything's settled down like this, we see more lots just sit there. Pre-sales start to go up because builders don't want to risk too much money in the spec building. But I believe like you can't just not have homes out there. So a lot of the builders will just have to build spec and allow the market to absorb it, because there's a lot of buyers, because of the certainty of the market. They don't want to wait 6 or 12 months for a construction. So they would just rather buy what they see. And then there is that pool of
Mm,
buyers which is shrinking, which are willing to wait 6 to 12 months and are not really subject to rates or condition of the market and so forth. And I think, you talking to Jasmine and a lot of other people in the market, and that's what I do. I talk to a lot of inside sales people, see kind of what their absorption rate is, what's the buyer pool, and so forth. But it's good to constantly get this feedback. And I feel like this is the time when actually builders should pick up the phone and talk to as many brokers. This is actually a time when brokers should pick up the phone and talk to other brokers, not in an essence of maybe business related, but just in an essence of truly understanding, just like me and you here are collaborating and kind of trying to fill out, where the market's at. And I've told, especially in our metro market here, maybe not talking nationwide, but I tell everybody the winters are a lot slower here. Try and make all your money in spring and summer because the winters are definitely a place of uncertainty. There's a lot less transactions to go around during the winter times, especially when it starts to rain here and snow and so forth. So I feel like brokers really have to do a lot of preemptive preparation for the market that we have. If you're not
mm.
going to prepare, you're just going to get caught off guard. And that's, the worst thing that could happen. So builders should definitely reassess their portfolios. And
Yeah,
this is what I'd say, Kevin, like right now is the time to prep for spring. And this is kind of a message to all the brokers and the builders, like you have to do all your preparation work right now, for the spring of 2026.
totally.
Whether we have a strong spring or a weak spring doesn't matter. Like you need to, build your product. You need to put specs into the ground this winter to take out product into next spring and summer on whatever, especially I would say your, kind of your C lots or your C projects. You really have to prep it for next spring because there's so much more activity in the market during the spring and summer times for at least our metro market here.
Yeah, there is. And this last year, it was slowed down a little bit by the announcements of tariffs, by where the interest rate, and that they kept promising that the rates were going to drop at the end of the year. And it's funny, we saw a 25 basis points drop the other day, and we
Hmm.
watched our mortgage rates go up at the same time. So I love all the funny information that's going around because it's just a big lack of information. But we have noticed a uptick with buyers here towards the end of the
Hmm.
year. People who are actually going to say, "Okay, I'm going to get off the fence now. The news is favorable or whatever." So they've started to move in that direction. And I've noticed this year the buyers are so much more picky than ever they've been. I mean, years ago, people were looking for a deal. They wanted to put in sweat equity. They wanted to maybe find a place that they could do up a little bit. And at the moment, they're not even really considering it. Like a lot of the people buying new construction, they're not coming in and having an amazing hardscape put in the backyard. They're just leaving it exactly how it is, just how it is. They're just not getting in there and making the changes like they were. And that was a major trend, 2020, 2021, 22. Everyone was still wanting to work on their houses a lot. And now they just
Mhm.
don't. They absolutely don't. So the resale homes that need a little bit of updating are sitting forever and ever and ever. They're just not selling. Even if the price is good, people don't care. They're not there to do it. And it seems like the new construction homes, the ones that don't have some kind of feature to it, like some kind of pizzazz or serious like design feature that's really interesting, they're also just sitting there. And people just aren't interested. They want to see something, like something. It's almost like they expect accent walls in every single room and they want like all these extra high-end features and they want it all to cost 250,000. So the buyer's expectations a little bit different in a sense. And
It's true, Kevin. And that's one of the reasons I think we need to get back, on talking and just informing brokers out there. But I truly feel like the buyers are getting a lot more pickier, and the
mm,
sellers have to raise to that expectation if they want their homes. The builders have to raise themselves, even though it's been so easy for so many years. Now, all of a sudden, we have to button things up because that's what buyers are expecting of us, and we have to move towards that direction. So I guess there's a lot more work involved with less pay, but this is the season of the industry. There's nothing you could do about it, and those who are seasoned, whether brokers or builders, they should, already kind of be used to this aspect that you're putting a lot more work right now, but yes, the result might not be as great, but this is kind of the grind work that all of us, in entrepreneurship kind of signed up for once we decide to go this route, that there's going to be less of, you know, work done, but the pay is definitely not there also. But I mean, we'll transition out of this also. So it is this season right now where, like I said, everybody has to be very strategic and aggressive. And I think
mm,
like I have a handful of sellers and then builders, and they don't want to hold conversations right now about price drops. They don't want to hold conversations about, hey, you got to do this and that to get this home sold. But these are the serious conversations that we have to face in real estate. Otherwise, we just have to kind of give up on that work and move towards people who are truly motivated to get
yeah,
things sold. And I feel like, especially on the killer book shift, he talks about, everybody always is too late to the shift. And I feel like I can't say that, loud enough. Like, there is a
yeah,
shift happening, and we have to be intentional. We have to spend the time to research data. We have to spend the time to see absorptions. We have to spend the time to go to conferences, at least at some levels, to get accustomed to what's truly happening in the market, and then
yeah,
how are we building our businesses for the market that's there. And a lot of people just don't want to spend the time. Again, it's a lot of energy. And I like the one saying, one of the brokers said, she said, like, when you're not working, you're learning, right? So I feel like this is a time where a lot of brokers need to start learning, listening to podcasts, getting out there, understanding the market, understanding the seller pool, the buyer pool, and so forth, and understanding the strategies that need to be. And it's okay. Some clients, you have to tell them, hey, right now is not the best time to sell your home. Springtime is the best time, if you want to truly get that top dollar. Otherwise, your buyers are going to chase you down to the bottom of the market. So all of these conversations are important to have, and they're not easy conversations. And I feel like everybody is feeling that tension that you have to have these conversations, whether it's with sellers or builders or
mm,
developers. But I have to say, if we don't have these conversations, the real, two heart conversations about where the market's at, everybody's just going to miss out. And 6 to 12 months from today, it's actually going to be even worse. So it's better to start early, because the trend of the market is where it's at.
yeah. It is shifting massively. Buyers'
Hmm.
expectations have shifted. The power players have shifted. The whole position that the larger building industry has taken has shifted. I mean, we've seen just recently there was all the news that came out about Buffett putting all of that money into Lennar and Horton, and
Hmm.
Meanwhile, the rest of us are out here seeing this decline. And to me, and I'm sure you see the same thing, that signals a shift in the industry where maybe the bigger entities aren't as focused on building residential for sale, but they're building more to hold and rent on a corporate level. And I think that's a big part of what the current administration is trying to incentivize is for those builders to be able to build that, because we've seen companies like LGI and some of the ones that are building the smallest houses,
Hmm.
they've moved almost entirely into the rental market and away from just building single family residential for sale. Is that something that's trickling down to the smaller builders, or are you
And I
seeing
and I feel
more?
that is one of the strategy exits, correct? Like a lot of people, even whether builders, they will have to refi and go into holding, right? Just rent it out, wait out
Yep.
the market, wait out the bottom of the market, and then once it turns into a seller's market, they'll start offloading. So I feel like the nationals are looking at their books of business, the local guys are looking at their books, and everybody's truly trying to figure out their play. But I agree that, a lot of people, especially with the lower rates, they're going to take their homes off the market and they're just going to rent them out, and they're going to
Mhm.
weather whatever correction we're entering, while the others that can't will have to basically continue to do price drops and maybe fire sale or do whatever they need to do to move through their inventory. So I think everybody really has to, and this is why I say, like, it's not December, January that you need to do these assessments. It's actually now. September, October, I
No.
feel like are the best months to sit down and set your goals, look at your year and so forth, because January, starting your strategy out in January or February is too late. Like I feel like
It
you
is.
have to put your strategy into solidification right into the fall, and then once springtime, you're not chasing what you want to do. You're already like, this is what we're going to do, and we're headed that direction. So I feel like, all of us have about, the next 60 days to really assess, what we're going to do for 2026, whether it's working with more
Right.
buyers, whether it's working with first time home buyers, whether it's working with sellers, motivated sellers, right? Not just guys who are people who are testing the market, working with builders. Some builders will have some workout schedule that they have to figure out with their investor groups and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of conversations that are going to take place like this, I think, between this fall and kind of next summer.
Yeah. It's pretty clearly outlined. You mentioned that book earlier, one of my favorite books by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan is the Shift. And Shift really does outline how, as you're going into the market, the people that try and play
Hmm.
catch up or follow the market are just too late. And the ones that are aware
Hmm.
that it's happening and change their systems and really double down on systems, when the market's going down, they up their ad spend, they increase the number
Hmm.
of contacts that they make. And I'm sure on the new construction side that we're seeing some kind of changes and some shifts in some ways that people need to adapt. Now, the first one that comes to mind is one of the first one that gets cut when people are trying to cut stuff off their budget sheet, and that's staging.
Hmm.
Totally staging.
I
Now,
know.
I know you've had like experience with all the different levels of stagers. Like what can our builders and what can we be encouraging our clients to do right now that you've seen make a difference? Is a cheap stager a good way to go? Do you need to really go for the good one, or just cut it off? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I think I think it's staging and then, like, letting go of talent, that people have to let go instead of. So talk about staging. I believe like staging is very important. Statistically has shown, homes sell a lot better when things are staged or have some form of stage, because it helps with the flow of the house. It helps the consumer, the buyer, see how things are placed within the home, and it allows them to kind of picture it. So I believe staging is very important, as your, I would say, marketing
Yeah.
expense. Virtual staging is kind of like, I think, the closest thing that can replace that. And I feel like, if you can't afford, real staging, at least do virtual staging so you can truly get that buyer into the door. Because I believe, some form of staging allows people, a lot of people just don't have the time to sit there and imagine how their furniture is going to look, when they enter that house, or how does the bed fit into the room. And it's really hard when it's not there to, right, like figure out true
Right.
dimensions of a bedroom or a family room or a dining room unless something's
Yeah.
already there. And I feel like that's where, staging helps, implement
Mm.
that curve where people can't imagine, they just truly, see it for what it's at, and they can move that direction. So I believe, yeah, staging is
Uh,
very, very crucial.
but I can totally double down and testify along with that. I mean, I can't even count how many buyer tours
Mhm.
in 2023. I know I was inside of over 3,000 houses, and in the last couple of years, have been a little bit slower as I've focused more on listing and other things, in
Mhm.
that sense. But so many, been inside of so many, and the excess large majority of people have zero vision. No offense to the excess large
Mhm.
majority, but that's just
Mhm.
not the way that they work. People who are,
Mhm.
stagers and home designers, they can do it, but everybody else, they can't see it, they can't picture it. And so I've definitely seen, for those of you who are trying to cheap out and go virtual staging, stop it, because when you get the people there, they're immediately disappointed. Yeah, I know it says virtually staged on there. The clients, the buyers, they don't see that. They, like, a
Mhm.
small percentage might notice that, but they still expect that there's something there, some furnishings inside the house. So I've actually seen a really negative effect on properties and have it take even longer when they had it virtually staged, and then people come walking in and they go, "Oh, that where'd the furniture go? Well, now what are we supposed to do?" And that's the worst thing. Like, you want them smiling and happy the whole way
Exactly.
through, all the way up to the door, fresh bark dust all the way up, smelling good. Like, everything's got to be great in order for things to align. And so, in the same way that the agents need to increase the amount of contacts that they're having with their
Mhm.
database, keeping in touch with
Mhm.
everybody. If you're not busy right now, pick up the phone and dial, say hello,
Yeah.
ask how the kids are doing. In that
Exactly.
same
Follow
way,
up, follow up, and follow through is going to be huge right now.
yeah,
Getting people from cold, I'd say cold lead to a warm lead, and then going from a warm lead to a closing. I think a lot more work has to be done between, follow up to closing now that people are just like, I mean, you really just have to treat it like a job. You get to work, you get your phone, and you start dialing. That's it. Like, it's not going to happen where, you just put a sign out there and the home just sells overnight. I think those days are just over. So, same thing with,
definitely.
working your buyer pool. You got to talk to these people maybe 5 6 times by the time they, figure out their financials, by the time they figure out their job, their down payment, the true rate of the market, and so forth. So there's just a lot more follow up and follow through, and I think that's one of the things the builders need to hear, and the
Yeah,
developers,
big
because they're
time.
just so used to, yeah, they're so used to clients just like, oh, show up, just pick a lot, pick a house, pick the colors, and we're done. Like, now it's like, no, they're going to take 5 meetings to pick a color. They're going to take 25 meetings to pick a kitchen, right? They're going to take 10 meetings to pick up a piece of lot. Like,
Mhm.
buyers are not in a hurry anymore. Like, they don't need to hurry because there's so many more opportunity. And again, I guess this is the message to the buyers. Like, if you want your triple A deal, like right now is the perfect time. You can go into any
Yeah,
community, find your A lot, A location, A house plan, and you could probably get one of the best pricings, that will be available, because we've shifted into a buyer's market. So, like, I
yeah.
believe, like,
Mhm.
the opportunity, and I'll give you an example. I had a client in the last turn when we went from a seller's to a buyer's market. I mean, this guy was watching this distressed property and he bought it, right? And he bought it at, when the market was on a downturn and the market started to go upturn. He's like, he was tempted to sell. And I kept telling him, don't sell, don't sell, don't sell. And he's like, why do you say don't sell? I was like, because I don't know if you can even replace that home that you ever bought. So the people who want to buy right now, they better go shop and buy, because the replacement cost of you trying to wait out until it becomes a seller's market might be too expensive. So he actually sold when the market
Yeah,
was a seller's market, and now he's renting. But I don't know what was the better cause, just having more money in the bank, because I don't know if he'll be able to find that opportunity or that house that he had again in the market. I don't know. It's a 50-50 chance. So the buyers who want to buy or considering buying should consider this market as the greatest opportunity for them to buy. And I think that's the message that we need to send to our buyers pool,
it is.
that right now it's a phenomenal opportunity. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
drive into a community, I have a lot of options. That's exactly what you want as a buyer. You want options, right? You just don't want to go in and say, I want that house because that's the last house standing and there's nothing else to choose from. So I feel like
right.
this is the opportunity for buyers to go out there, start buying. Yes, rates are higher. Will rates always be this high? No. I mean, history has showed that rates will come down, but your buyer opportunity is now, because I believe that's where the market is complimenting buyers
Yeah,
to go out there and buy. Buy what? The best thing that's out there on the market. Whether it's a
right.
big house on a big lot, whether it's a really nice custom home, whatever the outcome, of the market, but like it is truly a buyer's market.
Yeah, it it is. It's moved. It's moved into it. So for everybody out there watching and listening, if you've got people who are wanting to time the
Mhm.
market, tell them it's now. It's
It's
exactly
now.
now. Now
Yes.
is exactly
Mhm.
the time to step in because we're going to start to see we've started to see short sales a little bit, but our
A
market
little bit.
isn't like the rest of the country at
Yeah,
all.
there's
I
definitely
mean,
a stronger market here.
in
Yes.
the rest of the country, they got 9, 12 months of inventory in a lot of places. There's some places where
Mhm.
they're having huge price drops and we're just not. I mean, we've plateaued where we're at while everyone else has dipped down. But if we look at the whole picture on the large, we're effectively like 2011 right here, kind of in the sense that it's about to go back up. If the Fed
Mhm.
actually comes through and does what they've said they're going to do for the first time in 4 years and really brings that rate down the rest of the way, even though it doesn't all the way affect the mortgage rates, the basis
Mhm.
points, it's a different kind of credit. But between what's going on in the bonds market and what's going on with the federal rate cuts, if they do manage to get that rate back down, it's going to go right back to a seller's market. All the buyers are going to flood in. The inventory is going to be gone pretty quick, but the prices are going to skyrocket right away. Right
Mhm.
away. So these
Mhm.
prices where we're at now, this is the prime opportunity.
Mhm.
This is the once in 2 decades time where you can come in and swoop at the bottom of the market when everyone's just trying to fire sale or trying to
Exactly.
is forced to sell and get stuff done. And that's what it talks about in the book Shift. So if you guys watch and haven't read the book Shift, get it, read it, listen to it on audiobook. I've been through it about 6 times so far. I feel somewhat equipped, better than if I wasn't, but this really is the time to to buckle down and to really determine what direction it is that you're going. And if we're not doing stuff that is still producing and producing like it used to, then consider a change in messaging, consider a change in
Exactly.
updating. And I mean, our industry is kind of, it's almost like government. It's slow to move. It's slow to adapt. It's slow to change. We're not as on top of serving the buyers. The buyers kind of serve our
Mhm.
industry in a certain way. And I think that perspective needs to change a little bit because now there's so much liquidity out there. There's more cash buyers than there's ever been, and
Mhm.
because of all sorts of reasons. And so we all really need to understand what it is that they want, what they're looking for, and how we can best serve them. So hopefully this
For sure.
information is useful to those folks out there, and your insight is super valuable. David, if you had some just like final words, tips to leave people with about maybe some action steps that they can take now to better prepare themselves and their clients. I know we've been over a few of them, but what's your big takeaway today?
I would just say take enough time for rest. And one of the things, whether we're
Mm,
coaching brokers in the space of new home sales or builders, I feel like really, There's no need to panic. There's no need to be discouraged. One thing that people always told me in my business development, somehow it all works out. So I always say, just how are you going to work out your schedule, or work out your business, or work out your debt, or work out your health? Whatever way you're planning to work it out, start slowly to work out on things, but don't be bogged down on the news, on maybe your volume, or maybe you're not making enough money, or maybe you're in a little of debt. Like, you just understand everything, you can work out everything. And that's one of my mentors. He told me that many years ago, and I always remind myself. He's like, you can work yourself out of anything. Like, people have gone bankrupt, right? But they still were able to work through it and work themselves out of it. So I think it's a real big psychological game that each one of us plays, especially when we're business owners and everything. But remember this: you can always work through things and work through every single problem. So if your clients are having issues, just encourage them that we can work through this. We can work through this, and life has to move on. If you're struggling in your business, just know, like, just take one day at a time and work through things that have to be dealt with in your business. And you'll see how one day at a time, becomes this building block for things maybe you've never imagined. So keep working through things in your business and through life and through anything that you need to work through out to keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's killer advice. Totally. Focus on your time blocks. Take a look at
Hmm.
what's the most effective for gaining you business. Add extra effort in there. Maybe trim the fat a little bit. Re-examine our
Hmm.
messages and just really double down, because the one thing that Keller definitely teaches us is that those that double down when the market's down and put in the effort, you come out the other side with market share. So when the market
Hmm.
starts to recover on the other side, you're going to grow with it. So
For
that's
sure.
yeah, great advice. Great advice. Well, as
Thank you,
usual,
Kevin.
make sure you guys check out the links in the description below the video. If you haven't yet, go and look at the Northwest Home Builder Group, David's whole organization, and all of the amazing home plans that they've got. They've got a price per square foot that's really excellent. I mean, just incredible. And the level of luxury that they're delivering at the price point, so cool. So get to know that. Make sure you reach out to us if you haven't stopped by the Powered by Ground YouTube lately. Go through and take a listen. David is giving all sorts of useful information for free on that channel. And if we can be of service in any way, shape, or form, please reach out. We're only a text message or a DM away. So until next time, that's the Powered by Ground podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.